think we're live now. Tyler, are you in there?
There you go.
Hey guys, if you're watching this and if you have any issues with the feed or the audio, this is sort of an experiment, so let me know. Just leave a comment. I'm going to keep it open down here in my computer here. That way we can take questions and stuff. I'll keep the sound off so it's not distracting. But guys, I'm here with my good buddy Tyler Korom. Tyler is he's a hometown guy. He and I, we found out like a few months ago, we actually played ball against each other in high school and in college. And I'm super impressed with Tyler's ability to, super networker, got a lot of sales skills and a lot of things that I'd like to learn from him. So hopefully you guys will learn a lot from him as well. I did want to mention we're here at the cafe at the lobby, which is in the old People's Bank building. They've been super gracious in letting us set up here. Yeah, they're very, very accommodating. And this is just a beautiful place. So if you guys are in the area, definitely stop by, get a coffee. The restaurant is open for dinner as well as the lobby at the Maddox. I have had the opportunity to try some of the food. We haven't had dinner here yet, but at the open house, or the soft opening they did a few weeks ago, Chef Alex let us try some of the food, and it was unbelievable. So definitely come here and check that out. But to get back to the interview here today, I'm just going to ask a couple questions to Tyler, and we'll see where the conversation goes. So Tyler, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and what your mission and vision is in your business today?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Reed, for the opportunity. He's what I call a true business consultant that is very passionate and has a ton of fire inside of him right now, which is, I think, what's kind of drawn us together. So a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Winder all the way through elementary school. So I'm a local boy. Went out to Decula Middle and High School, where I played basketball. I really went out there for sports and education, and graduated in 2009. From there, and then went out to Reinhardt University, where I ended up going there to school for 5 years. Graduated in 2013 with a business administration and management degree, and enjoyed it, loved it. It's a beautiful campus, beautiful area, a lot of good people. And then after college, ended up, towards the end of college, met my beautiful wife, Jessica, and we've now been together for 6 years. She is really my why, and I'll talk more about that more here in a little bit. And then after that is really when my sales experience began, going through college, really. It's 2011 or so, was my first sales job. And it wasn't necessarily about sales and making money. What drove me, it was more about the relationship of that person walking through the door, and figuring out kind of who they were and what they were looking to accomplish. So that was really cool, and I could see myself doing that for a long time. So that was kind of a start to my journey. And then in 2014, adversity had hit. Ended up moving out to California with my wife. She was my fiance at the time, and I was in the jewelry business, and ended up moving out to LA. Things didn't end up working out. I think we lasted a total of 9 months out there. The cost of living was outrageous, and things just didn't work out the way that they were anticipating them to. So we ended up, interviewed with a company back here in Atlanta, had the job lined up, flew back here. Long story short, 2 weeks later, couldn't get the CEO on the phone, couldn't get him to respond to an email, and that was a very low time in my wife and I's life, where we had nothing to do but look up, and that was when I rekindled my relationship with God, and my faith has really grown ever since. After that, I ended up having to move in with my father. I was engaged at the time, And that's really, I think those times of adversity are really the times that when you look back on them, they help you, they mold you into the person that you are today and ultimately make you stronger. So that's what I'm kind of on a mission to do, is inspire others that in those times of adversity, that you push through and you don't give up. And then, so married my beautiful wife in 2016. We ended up pushing through. I went to work for a company called 84 Lumber here in Winder, making like $9 an hour just to make ends meet. And the funny thing was I ended up getting let go about a year and a half later. And I couldn't understand or figure out why. And it was coincidentally on a Friday. So I reached out to a mentor of mine, and he is a paramedic firefighter, or he was at the time, and he told me to come over to his house, and we talked and prayed. And he said, "Listen, Tyler," he said, "I've got a brother and a brother-in-law." And he said, "My brother is higher up in his company, and my brother-in-law is the CEO of his company." And what ended up happening was God, at the end of the day, came through like he does every single time. And what happened was, that was Friday, met with him, talked with him, prayed with him. He ended up reaching out to his brother-in-law that night and texted me later that evening and ended up saying, "Hey, would you be available to meet tomorrow?" And I was like, yes. I was just eager to get back in a job. I'm still trying to find my way. So ended up meeting with Matt Jenkins, who is now my CEO of Benchmark. And it was one of the biggest blessings of my life, and I'm forever grateful for it. I've been with the company now coming up on 3 years, and I truly enjoy it. So that's kind of a backstory on where I'm at, where I've been, and where I'm currently at. So
cool. So I mean, I gotta jump in on a point you made. So I didn't know that about kind of that rough period you went through. But one thing I'm learning, the longer I've been in business and the more people I've talked to, the more people that have achieved some really good success, is they've all got that same, not the same story, everyone's story is different, but they've all had that point in their life where all you could do was look up. I know I've been there. Talk about how that and the memory of that drives you forward today.
Yeah. So I think it's the times whenever an obstacle or adversity does come back up, it's really important to journal or note or whatever you can do to be able to go back to a headspace of, this is where I was at then. I thought there was no what would you say? I thought that there was no. I thought that was the end, basically.
Yeah.
And it never is. There's always, I think the whole thing is, if you can just get over that hump, if you can see the things at a micro level, not a micro, or at a macro level, not a micro level, that's a very big thing that I try to work on daily. So
I know from my experience what that I guess what that experience shapes in you is that it's two things. It's one, like, I don't want to go back there, right? So there's that drive. But the second one is like, well, I know I can make it through that, right? Like, how hard or how hard could it be to do it again, right? Like, so I can take a risk, or I can push through something because I know this isn't as hard as the last thing, right? So that perseverance. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he also played college sports. I know I'm talking about that a lot because there's so much that I've pulled relate, and I actually see that Coach Terry, if you're still watching, it may have even been you that told me this, but I remember we had like 5 a.m. workouts one morning, and there was a point where I was just running. I was like 19 years old. I had no idea what real challenge was, but we're running. It's dark. My legs feel like they're about to just give out, and I'm like, this is it. This is where I die. Like this, I'm done here. But then, like, you finish the workout, sun comes up, and you're like, I guess I can do that.
And you feel better.
You feel better. And then the next time, it's like, I've already done this before, right? So it's like every time you have those experiences in life, you just stack them up. And it's like, well, I thought that I couldn't handle X, Y, and Z. But I did, And so now my ceiling is actually a little higher than I expected it was. So it's like you keep bumping up against the ceiling only to realize there's actually more room. You actually can do that. So that's a really inspiring thing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no worries.
I do want to get to some tactical stuff, right? Because I have been watching just been watching you work from a sales standpoint, and I really respect what you've done there. So I'd love to hear about some of the things you're doing for Benchmark, and just what your style is, and what you maybe would tell other people who are getting started, or who are just trying to really get some success in their sales career.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Obviously, I don't know everything. I'm learning. I think that's the biggest thing is with age, you learn that you don't know everything. And you learn to listen to folks that are older than you that have been there and already done that, and that's wisdom at the end of the day. And so kind of talking about me and my mission, personally, I'm here to fulfill God's purpose for my life. I'm a Christian and I'm a believer, and that's where I stand. But I do fail daily, so I'm so thankful for His grace, and when it comes to that, and if you follow me, you can tell that. And I try to live it out in my actions, not just speak it as well. I think the biggest thing is keep your priorities in mind. So fulfill God's purpose, be a great husband, maintain my health, which is my mind, my body, and my spirit, my family, my career, my friendships, and then Benchmark also is a big mission of mine. So at the end of the day, that's my career. It's not at the top of my number one priority list. Literally, that priority list is in order. It's God, it's being a great husband, it's maintaining my health, it's my career, and it's my friendships at the end of the day. In that order. But Benchmark and your career, what you learn is you spend a lot of your time working a job, you know. So that's been a big mission of mine, is I have truly found joy in a job and a career, and some people never find that in their life. And I'm 28 years old, so I'm super passionate about it. And love what I do. And we're on a mission at Benchmark to inspire and empower our customers with the best branded products on the market. And we truly hold ourselves to a higher standard. We feel like we're a cut above. And at the end of the day, we try to live that out, not just talk about it.
So what are some of the things, well, before I move on, I do want to comment on that, that having those priorities, and this is not where I intended for this conversation to go, but I'm so glad it has, right? Having those priorities, I've noticed and I've learned that they don't take away from one another, right? Like, they only make you, if you keep those priorities in that, which I would totally agree with the order you put those in, they actually help each other. They actually help you be a better next one down the line, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's excellent. And I've talked about that. I've talked about that maybe not on video before, but I feel like I've talked about that in maybe Sunday school or something like that. So that's great. On the point of the sales, one of the things that I always try to draw this out of people is like, what are some specific things that people can do every day? Because I think and I know I talk about marketing most of the time, but I try to keep it very tactical and like what you can do every day. I think from a macro standpoint and from a philosophical standpoint, a lot of people get sales and marketing. Like, it's not rocket science, like what we do. What people fail at is doing the things that you need to do every day and making sure to do them every day.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
He was actually a speaker, and he had said, work on getting 1% better every single week, you know, and that's back to that micro versus macro, micro versus macro. And so that 1%, I think, is a big deal. Sometimes we're too hard on ourselves, you know, and it's easy to get caught up in social media and things and looking at other people and where they're at. And at the end of the day, there's people in front of you and there's people behind you, and you're right where you need to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like I remember, I think I saw the same presentation on the 1% better, because if you do that every day, then that's like 36.5 times improve, 36.5x improvement throughout the course of a year, right? The idea is obviously not that you're going to grow this or that by 36 times, but if you can continually tweak things on a daily, weekly basis to try to improve. And so now I'm going to take this super tactical, guys. So if you've got a pen and paper out, draw out a upside down pyramid on a piece of paper and write it out into 3 different quadrants, right? So you've got kind of what you've got now is you've got a funnel that you've drawn out, and there's a marketing funnel and there's a sales funnel. And at the top of it, there's, that quadrant is the top of the funnel, then you've got middle of the funnel, then bottom of the funnel, right? And so each one of those has a conversion point from top to middle to bottom, right? And if you do these things correctly, and one thing I teach all the time is track everything. Track like the amount of content you put out, track quantity as much as you can, track quality, the number of calls you make, the number of proposals that you put out, the number of emails that you send out. Track it all, because then what you've got is a fully quantitatively analyzable funnel, and you'll have numbers. So you can say, how would it improve the bottom line if we tweaked from step B to step C? Because I see we've got a conversion rate of, say, 32% between first call to second call, right? Or we are having a 46% close rate on our proposal discussions. How could we improve that by just a little bit? What could we do to make things a little smoother? And if you're constantly analyzing all those different levels of the process, of the pipeline or the funnel, whatever you ultimately want to call it, you're going to have a great increase in that bottom line production. And so that's a good practical way to apply that 1% better every day. To move on to kind of the next question, and I'm stealing from your notes, Tyler. Talk about, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So talk about point number 3 and 4. Those are really good.
Cool.
Talk about those.
Yeah, I would love to. The point 3 for you guys that can't see that is benchmark sales process, and 4 is what tips do I have for someone just starting in sales or is in an account manager role. A little more background on me. I'm an account manager with the company. My 3 main accounts are UGA, Georgia Tech, and Georgia State University. And so I would say the first step in your sales process is finding your why, which is a big thing that I've talked with you a little bit about. Simon Sinek has really inspired myself and our entire company, and we have completely done a 180-degree turn. And I feel like the morale in our company has also done a 180-degree turn in the last 3 years that I've been here, and it's been really cool to be a first-hand person to experience that. And then, so step 1, find your why. Step 2 is find out who your ideal customer is. So at the end of the day, who are you trying to, and you're a consultant, right? So you're helping another business. Who is that customer's ideal? Who is your customer's ideal customer, and how do you target them at the end of the day? So that's step 2, and then step 3 is build genuine relationships, which you can see Reed and I have a pretty good relationship, and what we have found is, or what I found, and I feel like Reed would agree, is that if you can push sales out of the way and truly connect with an individual and figure out what do they care about, what are their goals in life, what do they want to accomplish, who are they? If you can find out what that is, you'll break through a barrier that you have never broken through before. So that's been a big thing that I have learned. And shout out to Ben Richard, who is our creative director. He has helped me more than anybody on just sales in general, and lifting me up and motivating me and training. I mean, literally training me for the last 2.5 years. And Matt as well has been right there along the way. So thank you all so much. And so the next thing, so I've got find your why, find out who your ideal customer is, build genuine relationships, add value at the end of the day. So find their pain points is what we like to say. What is it that they are looking to accomplish? Why did they call you? And really dig into that. And then what we have found is in order to build a relationship with a client, it takes roughly 9 touches, which is really interesting. So that could be social media, that could be email, that could be whatever. But being genuine is what makes that even more difficult, because sometimes you're going out of your way trying to build a relationship with someone who may or may not want to build a relationship with you. And so just realizing that, being very self-aware in things is very important as well. I would say the next step would be ask the right questions, which is kind of like what I just dabbed into, and then follow through and follow up. So once you get the sale, it doesn't end there. I mean, we've got systems and processes in place to make sure from start to finish in that process, whether it's apparel or whatever, we are going to make sure from the very get-go to the very end that product is exactly what you expected, and it's delivered to you in time, and it's a quality product that's better than you even expected. And then those are kind of the 7 steps I have just to recap on that. So find your why, find out who your ideal customer is, build genuine relationships, add value, ask the right questions, the follow-up and the follow-through.
So I'm going to get Tyler to send me those like typed out, and I'll put it here in the comments, because that stuff is gold, guys. One, if I could isolate a couple of them, understanding who your customer is, that's one of those things that I'm amazed gets totally skipped by so many businesses. They're like, well, we sell this. It's like you're one step too...
I'll talk more about that here in a second.
Yeah,
too.
like you're one step away, right? You kind of understand, right? Yes, you're selling XYZ widgets, right? Or services, whatever it is. But you're solving a problem. If you're not solving a problem, you have no value. I don't care if you're a restaurant or if you're a B2B SaaS product serving the bridge building community in the upper New York area. Like, you're solving a problem. There's a person or a business out there who is looking for a solution to a particular issue they're having, and you're solving that problem for a specific person. So figuring those things out is absolutely key. So
yeah, and I would say I joke around about it, but it's the truth at the end of the day. A good salesperson is a professional problem solver. And that kind of leads me into my next point here, which is, what tips do I have for someone just starting in a sales or account management role? So I would say the first step is doing some soul searching. So really looking internally within yourself and figuring out who you are, what you want to accomplish, where you want to go, things like that. And ultimately who you want to be. No one else at the end of the day can fulfill any of your dreams if you don't talk. So you've got to speak up too at the end of the day. Talk about what your goals are, what your missions are, and you'd be amazed at the people around you who will want to encourage you and help you achieve those goals, because people are genuinely good at the end of the day. I truly believe that. And the society might tell you differently. And then the next thing I have is know your why. So for me personally, it's God, great husband, health, family, career, and friendships at the end of the day. And then make sure you align with your company's why as well. So find your why, and then make sure that you align with your company's why. Because if you don't, all these things are ultimately going to make you more joyful and happier and more ambitious, and that fire inside of you is going to stay lit and not go out. And then the next thing I have is have obtainable goals and a stretch goal that pushes you. So a lot of times, a lot of folks will set goals, but they're goals that they can obtain, and they're not necessarily goals that are going to push them to that next level, which is what I think we're all trying to get to. How can we better ourselves day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year? That 1% every single day. And then the next thing I have is don't be too hard on yourself. You're going to get a lot of no's at the end of the day. Stay positive and keep your nose on the grindstone. And then I had Rome wasn't built in one day. So
did you come up with that?
I don't think I did. So I can't take credit for that. And then the last two things I have, there were 7 points there, is to look at things on a macro versus micro level, and then quit selling. People genuinely hate being sold. So stop selling, find out who you are, find out your why, find out your company's why, and just make sure that all those things align. And at the end of the day, I think that's where joy sets in.
Yeah, that's good. And Tyler actually called me out, rightly so, in my conversation with Chris and Andre earlier this week, when I said people want to be sold. And then I started to I wish I had said this correctly at first, but in the conversation I did start to correct myself and say people want to be led, right? I believe people are looking for leaders, but I totally agree with you. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sold, because that's almost, it creates a bit of an adversarial relationship, right? It's like, I'm trying to beat you, or this person's trying to get something from me. That's a terrible environment to try to, just to use the term, right, to try to sell somebody in, right, is if they feel like you're in this competition. But if they feel like you're there to help them solve a problem, alleviate some sort of a pain, remove a roadblock, then you're in partnership in trying to solve that problem. So I love that.
Yeah.
I did have another question. We can probably wrap it up here. So what are some of the new challenges that you've been working on? I know we talk about that. I talk about that with a lot of folks that I'm friends with. Maybe this is just a, kind of a, not law of attraction. I don't like that phrase, but
I believe in that, by the way.
I think there's definitely something to that. But I think when you are a driven person and when you are doing things, right, like when you're trying to make stuff happen, you naturally attract those other types of people. And I definitely feel that from you. And one thing that is just part of that is, like, there's always new challenges to knock down. So what are some things you're working on now, and what can you put out there that might be helpful to other people that are trying to knock down the next thing?
Yeah, so I think your question was, what are some new challenges that I've been working on? I've got 3 here. The first one is realizing, like I said originally, realizing that you are uniquely and wonderfully made. And from God, from your mother's womb, whether you believe that or not. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes there, but I am a strong believer in my faith. And I just want to put that out there, is that you are uniquely and wonderfully made, and you have a purpose here on this earth. Find that purpose. Find people around you who encourage you, who lift you up, and who help you to be a better person at the end of the day. And I'm in the process of finding my purpose currently. I think I've got a very good grasp and idea of who I am and what I want to be. I'm not quite there yet. I don't know if I'll ever get there, because I am very ambitious, and when it comes to that, but that's a big step. And then the next thing that I'm working on is overcoming price objections, which I've heard you talk a little bit about, and that at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of no's, which is like what I was saying. So how do you ask the right questions? How do you add value to your customer? And how can you be there at the end of the day and not get discouraged or let down over all of the no's that you receive as a salesperson at the end of the day? And then my final thing is managing relationships. This has been one of the bigger things that I have been working on personally, and at Benchmark as well, which is managing relationships with my wife, at home, with my friends and my family, and with my colleagues, and things like that. And what you realize is at the end of the day, there's a right and a wrong way to respond to things, and not jumping the gun and being quick to respond or anything like that on your first kind of thought or instinct,
Yeah.
but really absorbing and thinking on the other person's behalf. Why are they reacting this way? Or why are they acting this way? Or did I do something? But I try to put myself in the other person's brain and figure out why it is that they are or aren't reacting the way that they are, or why they said that, or whatever. And really, when you analyze those things and break them down, your brain starts to think a little bit differently, and you start to, most of the time, you realize that you realize why that person reacted the way that they did, whether that was a previous thing that happened or whatever. Something typically clicks, and you're like, okay, that's probably why that person reacted the way that it is, and then rekindling that relationship and figuring out how to overcome those obstacles, I think is kind of what I've learned, where I'm at, and what I'm trying to currently overcome.
That's great. Yeah, there's a lot in all of those things, and we should probably have more conversations, right, to break all of those
So
down.
much, yeah.
I know I was just talking to somebody, it was like last week, and if it was you, if you're listening and it was you that I had this conversation with, please let me know. I'm sorry I'm forgetting, but we were talking about outcomes thinking, right? Like what is the outcome? What's the desired outcome before you say or do that next thing, right? If you're in a discussion with a prospect or a client or your spouse or whatever it is, and they say something and your first reaction is whatever it is, before you choose that reaction, think about how is this going to affect the person who hears it, right? And what am I trying to achieve with this, right? So it's not just about responding, but it's about maintaining the right desire. I guess maintain the right mindset when it comes to the desired outcome, and then choosing your words or choosing your next actions carefully. This is applicable in interpersonal relationships and work, and especially, right? I've seen a lot of really nasty, professional disagreements because people are just responding. They're not choosing their words and their actions. So that's really great. Unfortunately, we got to wrap this up, guys. Before we go, though, Tyler, please let everybody know, what to be on the lookout for when it comes to referring business to you. What's a good person, or what's a good question, or a good thing to hear for people, or that people should listen for other people to say, boom, you need to talk to Tyler, and then how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Reed. We do best with the larger organizations, churches, things like that. Like I said, we work directly with UGA and Tech and State, BCA over here, Jiffy Lube, Mr. Clean, just bigger companies and organizations. So if you hear anybody that is looking to purchase large quantities on a tight turn time, I believe our standard turnaround time is about 14 business days, and that's anywhere from 24 to thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of shirts, polos, etc. So I specialize in the apparel side of the business, but we strive to be a true one-stop shop, which is awards, apparel, design, and promotional items. So if you hear anybody talking about awards, apparel, design, or promotional items, those are all trigger words that I would love the opportunity to speak with someone. Or if you hear someone that's having issues with the logo, or the quality of the work, the end product wasn't the best, they didn't really like the way that the embroidery looked, or the screen print's falling apart on the t-shirt or something like that, those are things that are all signs that Tyler needs to speak with them, or someone from Benchmark needs to speak to them, because at the end of the day, we're experts, and we've been around the game since 1980. And we love those opportunities to speak with those folks. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And Tyler is I mentioned him here in this post, right? So you can get access to him through Facebook at least, and then I'll make sure that his email address and contact information is in the comments as well. If you guys are already thinking, man, I need to talk to Tyler. Yeah, I think that's a good point to wrap it up. Guys, I really appreciate you watching. Thanks so much for sharing this and for leaving comments and stuff. And if you have some follow-up questions. I'm sure we can get a second conversation. I'm sure I can get Tyler to commit
I would love to do
that.
This is my first one, so thank y'all for bearing with me.
Well, cool. Awesome, guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one.